Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Connect 2023 CFP Speaker Workshop, Crafting Your Next Conference Talk Proposal. I'm Stephanie Rideout, and I'm Digital Community Specialist here at Women Who Code, and I'm very excited to share this workshop with you to help you prepare for your talk proposal. So let's start off. Share your expertise at Connect. So a little bit about what this is about. Women Who Code is looking for diverse speakers to share your technical expertise at our upcoming virtual tech conference, Connect 2023, which is on March 2nd. And our deadline to submit a talk proposal is November 14th. We believe that a conference dedicated to making our industry better should reflect diversity within it. And we take our code of conduct very seriously, as I mentioned earlier, and encourage those of groups traditionally underrepresented in technology to apply. All speakers will find a supportive environment as you prepare for your talk. So just a little bit, what is a talk proposal? So this is your opportunity to share your expertise with the Women Who Code community, our team of reviewers. So your talk proposal will include your talk title and description. It will also include what category you think your talk should belong under, your speaker bio, target audience, and some other information. And you'll likely hear me reference CFP during today's session. I've already mentioned it a few times. So CFP stands for Call for Proposals. So this is our call for you to share your amazing talk proposals with our community. So what are we looking for? Diverse speakers to share their technical expertise in groups traditionally underrepresented in technology to apply. First time and experienced speakers. So if you have not spoken at a conference before, do not worry, we're here to support you. We're looking for speakers of all levels. If you've submitted to a previous Women Who Code event or given a similar talk at another event, if you've led a workshop or training at work or school, we'd love to hear your idea. Proposals for trying to find this. Proposal for talks, workshops, and panels that help diverse women on your professional journeys in tech. You can present on core technologies and a solution, a work project and its challenges, a project that you created for fun, etc. And you can find inspiration for past talks on our YouTube channel, which that link will be shared in the chat. And as Gracia mentioned in the chat, we are also accepting talk proposals in Spanish. So you can submit an English one or a Spanish one, or you can submit the same one twice in both languages if you're bilingual. So we would love to see all of your amazing talks. And we're going to be going over sharing some past talks to inspire you today at today's session. So awesome. So Gracia will be sharing in the chat a link to submit your proposal. This is the type form that you can go ahead and submit it. And let's dive in and get started with our workshop. All right. Fantastic. All right, so getting started. So for today's workshop, you will likely want to jot down your thoughts and start to write your talk title and description. So I recommend having one of the following available. It's whatever you're most comfortable with that you can use. So maybe have a blank document or spreadsheet. You can use Google Docs, Google Sheets, Pages, Microsoft Word, Notes, whatever you want. You could also potentially use a collaboration board if you have a Miro account or Google Jamboard. Canva has this tool as well. So you could also just use regular paper, notebook, sticky notes, have some pens, maybe some colorful pens ready to go, and whatever works for you, just as long as you have a place where you can jot down your notes and follow along in today's session. Today's session is being recorded, so if you prefer just to follow along today and then work on these exercises later, that's totally okay. So you can come back to this as many times as you want, pause it, take your time, and work on each phase. So let's get started with the first phase, which is brainstorming. So brainstorming is your opportunity to write down as many ideas as you can think of. So you'll want to write down everything that comes to mind, whether or not you think it would make for a great conference talk or not, anything that you're excited about or could potentially become a talk, write down those thoughts. And we'll have some more time to go over this in just a moment with a brief exercise. But a reminder for this stage, it's best to avoid evaluating each individual idea. Right now, you just want to get your ideas down on paper or digital paper, and there are no wrong ideas. So at this point, just write down everything that comes to mind. We're going to evaluate our ideas on our brainstorming list later, and then you'll decide which one you would like to continue with for the exercise. So categories. So I think it's helpful to look at the different technical and career enough categories that we have at the conference. So we have several technical categories. If you would like to do a technical talk, we're looking for accessibility, architecture, backend, blockchain, career navigation, cloud, cybersecurity, data science, front end, inclusive teams, machine learning, AI, mobile, product, Python, UX, UI, web development, and other. And for career nav, we are looking for, hold on a second, sorry for career nav. We're looking for categories such as applying for a job, interviewing, technical interviews, salary negotiation, career path journeys, leadership, changing careers to tech, returning after a career break, managing a team, diversity, equity, inclusion, and other. So anything else career related that you're inspired. So this is also on the Connect CFP website, that link that Gracia has shared. So if you want to have that open and continue to reference these categories as you're brainstorming, I think that would be a super helpful thing. So here's our exercise. So you'll want to take a moment to brainstorm a list of technical and career ideas that you're excited and passionate about, and write down as many ideas as you can think of. As I mentioned, there's no wrong ideas. And feel free to share one or two of your ideas in the chat. We're going to come back to this, and I'm going to share my example. So while I'm talking, feel free to start writing down all of your ideas. And here's some of the ideas that I came up with. So one idea, OpenCV project workshop. So maybe something using that Python library could create a project and share with the community how to execute that project. Mobile application accessibility, getting started with Web3 and Python. Web development project using Vue.js. Skills to transition to cloud. Creative coding. And then for career, preparing for tech interview, saying yes to opportunities, transitioning to project management, networking, like what is it really? And salary negotiation, building a portfolio project. So these are some of the ideas I came up with. So if you're using a board, it doesn't need to be this clean and nice. You can throw sticky notes everywhere, and then later on put things into priorities, decide which things are you most excited about. And I see someone has shared what they would like to talk on. So thank you very much for sharing. So this person would like to set up testing infrastructure for React front-end projects. So that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Somebody else, how to start a WordPress website in Google Cloud. So that's amazing as well. So thank you everyone for sharing your ideas. Keep sending them in. And so this is just the same list, just organized differently. So if you decide to do a board, it can look really pretty. You can also just jot down your notes and look like this. And all right, so we actually have few moments. So if anybody else would like to share what your ideas are. Yes. Okay. So how to code with Cypress along with BDD. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. So yeah. Okay. Implementing web accessibility. Fantastic. These are fantastic ideas. Thank you everyone for sharing. So once you have a list, your list, everyone's list can look a little different. I know sometimes I do brainstorming, and when I start off, I stare at a blank sheet of paper for like 30 minutes. And other times I have a bunch of ideas flowing through my head, and I will fill an entire sheet of paper with a ton of ideas. So there really is, it really is kind of based on like what you're passionate about talking about. I see someone's interest in talking about compassionate leadership, the art of leading through change. That's amazing. What recruiters look for when selecting candidates. Fantastic. Someone wants to do storybook stories that make reliable components. Another person, how to create a website that takes in product information from other websites. So like web scraping, that's a fantastic topic. It's always a lot of fun. How to set up SSL certificate in WordPress, how to use GitHub CLI. All right, so fantastic ideas from everyone. And so, you know, imposter syndrome. Yes, absolutely. So keep all of these ideas written down, and we are going to come back to some other things. Somebody's talking about robotics, AWS ML projects. Yes, absolutely. We will be very interested in your talk. So fantastic. All right. So everyone keep your list. We're going to be going back to this very soon. So we are going to now choose a topic. So at this stage, you're going to evaluate all of the amazing ideas you just came up with, and you're going to select one or more if you want to that might work for Connect 2023. Excuse me. So there might be already a topic or two on your list that you're kind of gravitating towards, you're extra excited about. And so I recommend, for the purpose of today's activity, that if you have like 20 things written down or 5 things written down, just choose one for right now. You can choose 2 if you prefer, a technical one, a career one, if you prefer, but it might be easier to choose one right now to practice with during today's workshop. And, you know, it doesn't need to be the final talk that you submit, but you can go through these exercises and whatnot and decide on that later. So here are some thoughts to keep in mind when you're choosing a topic. Does this talk or workshop empower the Women Who Code community? This is very important. We want to make sure that the Women Who Code community attends your talk and they feel empowered to pursue something and go forward in their professional careers and their lives. So what will attendees learn from attending this talk or workshop? What is your unique approach to the topic? So there are a lot of topics. There's machine learning, for example. We get a lot of talks on, machine learning and AI, but like, what is your unique approach to that topic going to be? That's very important. Are you excited and passionate about the topic? I enjoy talking about topics that I'm personally very passionate about, and my passion comes out in my talk. Who is your audience? We'll go through that in just a moment. Do you have time to create the content? Meaning, over the next few months, do you have time to properly execute this idea that you have? Or is it something that's going to take many, many months to put together? What talk format works best for you and the content? We'll talk more about that shortly as well. And does this talk focus on the needs of the community? So we tend to like to stay away from anything that comes off too promotional. And so we want to make sure that we are keeping the audience number one in our minds when we are designing our talks. All right, so our activity is from the list of topics that you just brainstorm, select one that you would like to continue with working on today. Please give a thumbs up emoji in the chat when you've decided on a topic. You don't need to share in the chat what it is unless you want to, but feel free to just give us a thumbs up and we will know that everyone has selected something. And so I'm going to be going through an example of my own. And so for my example at this phase, my topic will be saying yes to opportunities. Fantastic. Seeing lots of wonderful thumbs up. Fantastic. You're all doing a fantastic job. And as I mentioned, you can decide later whether you want to submit this idea or if you want to work on another idea. You can submit more than one talk proposal. You'll just need to fill out the form individually for each talk proposal. So if you have 2 or 3 ideas, you can definitely submit multiple talk proposals. Fantastic. So everyone is doing really well. So now that we have our topic, we're going to start by sketching out our talk. So before you write your talk title, your description, you might find it helpful to first write out just some rough notes about your talk. It doesn't need to be super detailed, but whatever helps you to understand what you would like to cover in your talk. This helps you also decide what talk format you think will work best. So here's some things to consider. What would you like to accomplish in your talk? Again, who is your audience? What are the key takeaways you want the audience to gain from your talk? Will the session include live coding or a code talk through, or will it primarily cover theory or your unique experiences? Such as like a career transition or learning skills for a job. And how in depth do you want to go into your topic? So we'll be talking about formats in just a moment where we can talk through that. So who's your audience? We have a number of choices in our CFP form. So you want to think about this when you're looking at your topic. Who do you want to speak to? People who are new to coding, junior engineers, mid-level engineers, senior engineers, engineering management, technical executives. I like to kind of focus a little bit more on like the mid-level engineer, but your talk might be introductory towards a specific topic that so it might be like introductory towards like a higher level topic that a mid-level engineer might be looking to expand their skills and in a specific area. So consider all of those things and decide which of these audience, which target audience you will be speaking to in your talk, and that will help you kind of decide like how you want to write this. So now that we're here, let's take a moment and write down any thoughts, any notes that you have about your talk. You can give a thumbs up emoji in the chat when you've written down a few notes. So in my example, remember mine is like saying yes to opportunities. So for my notes, some of the things I thought of were like, okay, I want to empower attendees to say yes to more opportunities. We too often say no to opportunities that we really want due to like self-doubt. And so I wanted to address that. Recognize your inner amazingness to build courage and confidence. So I wrote down enough notes to help me understand, okay, I have this idea, but now let's start to break it down a little bit. What exactly do I want to talk about? What do I want to communicate to everyone? So take a few moments and just add a few notes. Again, there's no wrong way of doing this. It's just anything you can think of. If you're doing like a Python workshop, you might write down notes about a specific project that you might want to demonstrate. For example, maybe you want to use specific libraries, anything that you feel is relevant to help you write it down. You can list your technical tools, anything that you feel will help you at this stage, write everything down, and we'll be coming back to that later. But as you can see, once I kind of have some basic thoughts, this is going to help me later to write my description and my talk title and help me to figure out how I want to construct my talk. So I'm just checking the chat real quick while everyone works on that. Okay, someone's asking if they have a broad talk that can be both for beginners and mid-level, do you pick both or select one? I think it is probably good to try to have someone in mind, but if it is a general topic, like I feel like quantum computing might be an example, but like if I was going to do a talk on quantum computing, I would probably say that's more for like mid-level or higher level, like engineers who are looking to transition. So it might be possible that you can submit more than one talk proposal for each target audience, but it might be better just to choose which audience you feel more comfortable communicating your talk to. And as Anna's mentioning in the chat, there's also a place in the extra notes in the application. So if you want to mention that, if you think that like, oh, this works for mid-level, but I also think it could work for beginners, you can add a note and just let us know anything extra in that note section. All right. Fantastic. So yeah, if everyone could give me a thumbs up when you've written a few notes, and then we will move to the next phase. I'm seeing a few. And to someone's point, they're talking about that you can also have, you can have it like a general audience. I feel like certain topics such as, well, the example that I'm demonstrating here, saying yes to more opportunities, could appeal to anyone from beginner to advanced. You can, like imposter syndrome, a lot of career topics could be, across different audience levels. But I think for a technical talk, especially, you want to make sure like who exactly you're talking to. Like if it's a Python talk, they should have a basic understanding of like Python syntax and that sort of thing to be able to execute the project, those sorts of things. So fantastic. It looks like everyone is ready to move on. So we are going to move to the next part. So choosing your talk format. So before you write your proposal, your title, your description, you want to determine which of the following talk formats you think best fits your topic. So we have 4 talk formats. So you could do a lightning talk, and that's 15 minutes plus 5 minutes of Q&A. A technical talk, which is 35 minutes of your presentation plus 10 minutes of Q&A. A career session, 35 minutes of your presentation plus 10 minutes of Q&A. Or a workshop, and those are 50 minutes. And I will get a little bit more in depth on what you can cover through each of these formats. So, so for a lightning talk, I would say this was best if you want to make a quick point on something. So the talk will probably not go like really incredibly in depth on a topic. And it's kind of making a quick point. It might be an inspirational talk. It might be an industry update that you think is relevant, or it could be something like getting into quantum computing, just like an introductory talk that just shares a little bit of information to get people inspired and whatnot. If you want to go a little bit more in depth, you want to cover more information, you'll want to pick a technical talk or career session. So this time will allow you to cover a lot more information about your topic. You can get a little bit more into theory, your professional experiences, anything that you would like to cover. I did want to go back and mention one thing about lightning talk format. This is a really great format if you were new to conference speaking. So if you haven't if you haven't delivered a talk at a conference before or virtually, and maybe you're feeling a little bit nervous, you might consider creating a lightning talk format for yours. The lightning talk does, as I mentioned, does not necessarily work for every topic, but I would definitely look at what you have and come to a determination. I feel that 35 minutes always goes by really fast for me. I talk for a really long time. So 35 minutes for me goes by really quickly, and I feel like I haven't fully covered everything. And so a 15-minute workshop is more of like a deep dive into a technical topic. So you might be doing some live coding. You might do a code talk through if you're sharing a project. You might, as I mentioned, you might build a project or show how they can build a project. You might show a component of a project in your talk. And someone's asking, can a technical talk be given in a lightning talk format? Yes, absolutely. So we definitely have had several really amazing lightning talks that were technical on a variety of different topics. So yes, as I mentioned, it's anytime you want to make like a quick point, if you feel like you don't have quite 35 minutes, but you want to say, here's something that's going on in my industry that I'm really excited about. If you feel like you can get through that in 15 minutes, you choose the lightning talk. So yeah, I think I've made a lot of the points here. Oh, there's questions. Hold on, I'll get to your questions. Someone's asking, how do I decide between a technical talk and a workshop? That's a great question. So as I mentioned, I feel that workshops, like they're going to go more in depth. Like if you're going to be doing like walking somebody through using OpenCV to build some type of computer vision project, for example, you might want to do a workshop instead. So you can really deep dive into the code and show everyone what that's about. But if you're more interested in just explaining, for example, like what is computer vision and what are some careers or jobs you can pursue in computer vision, then you might find that a technical talk is better suited for that. So it really just depends on how in depth you want to go. Does a technical talk require that you show live demos? No, a technical talk, you don't need to show a live demo if you don't want to. A lot of people show just slides with screenshots, or if they have a live demo, they'll show it, but you don't need to. And someone's asking, can a technical talk have a short demo video? Potentially. Sometimes there are technical challenges. So you just want to make sure that if your talk is selected, that you practiced and make sure that everything was working correctly beforehand. What is a good way to see past topics? Yeah, so we're going to be going through in a moment a lot of past topic ideas. That's actually up next. And so we'll be sharing some of those. You do not need to have to answer someone's question, you do not need to have extensive IT background in order to be a speaker. You can have experience in a number of different areas and be a speaker. So, someone's asking, can I get feedback on how relevant your topic is today? I would definitely, explore that with the community a little bit more. You can do some of your own research. You can, if you have a friend or a colleague who is in that industry, you can ask them, just share like, hey, I'm thinking of doing a talk at the conference. Do you think that this idea is relevant? So that's what I would recommend. All right. I'm going to move on because we have a lot to get through still. All right, so crafting your talk title, please keep your questions coming. And I'll try to respond to as many as I can. All right, so talk title. So your talk title is the first thing. It's the very first thing your CFP reviewer is going to evaluate when considering whether to accept your talk. It's also the first thing that an attendee will evaluate when considering whether to attend your talk if your talk is selected. So this is very important. Do not overlook it. It doesn't need, just because it's very important, it doesn't mean it needs to be complicated. It does not need to be complicated, but you do need to spend some amount of time making sure that you're coming up with a good talk title to describe your talk. So the goal of your talk title is to use exciting language to share what your talk is about, using only a few words. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. So here are some thoughts to keep in mind. Clarity is key. Someone needs to quickly read your talk title and immediately understand basically what your talk is about. You'll want to keep it brief. You have up to 60 characters for your title. But also avoid being too brief. So a talk title such as machine learning tips, it doesn't really tell us what you're going to be sharing about in your talk. It needs, like, your talk title needs a little bit more information so we understand what exactly your talk is going to cover. So make sure to include keywords and language that helps us understand your talk, what sets your talk apart from others. And you also want to, we want to understand like what your unique approach to the topic is. So that's why something like machine learning tips, okay, we don't really entirely know like what that means. So you can spend some time, what is my unique approach to machine learning? What exactly am I going to talk about? And so we're going to share some examples. So here's an example: understanding the carbon footprint of machine learning. So it's very clear what this person is going to be talking about, what are the impacts of machine learning and whatnot, and how can we make improvements. Another person's talk, what they don't tell you about tech interviews. Very clear. We know that this person's going to have some secret tips, or maybe secret tips about technical interviews. So these are both talks that would be very interested in attending. Okay. And as Mackenzie is mentioning, this is primarily a tech conference, so we expect that the speaker will have experience in the industry. So just mentioning that. All right, so some more examples: pitfalls to avoid when creating your portfolio site. Again, very clear: mitigating biased algorithms in the real world. So we're going to be looking at a real world application of algorithm biases. So really interesting. So there are a lot of different ways, before I go into this, there are a lot of different ways to come up with a talk title. I try to identify multiple ways that people are writing their talk titles, and I'm going to share them with you. So one option for your talk title is to start with a verb. I see this a lot. And so as you can see, using words like improving, understanding, mitigating, cultivating, developing, using. Others include building, anything that could be a strong verb that gets your point across is always a great way to start. So you could write yours that way. Another way of doing talk titles, so two-part talk titles can be very effective. The first part of the title might be catchy. So in these examples, the first part is catchy: let's get fired up, reset and recharge, you're amazing. So you read that first part and you're being drawn in because it's catchy. But then the second part is explaining, okay, this is what the talk is about. So getting started with Firebase Firestore, fantastic. Humans need to reset and recharge just like devices. So very exciting. And then courage to say yes to more opportunities. Okay, I know that this talk is going to help me build up that courage that I need. And there's another way of doing two-part talk titles. I personally love two-part talk titles, but you don't need to do that. The first part might strongly share what the talk is about and could stand alone. So leading from every level, if the talk title is leading from every level, you have an understanding of what it's about already. But then it goes and explains more in the second part. It goes a little bit more in depth about what the talk is going to cover. So this talk demanding more now, not later. So, okay, great. This is about leadership from any level and how you can demand more now. So it's very clear. It's very captivating. Another talk example, typesetting in CSS, but then it goes on to explain more using typography to enhance your design. Oh, this sounds really interesting. I did attend that talk and I really enjoyed it. Building your career like a product. So they're putting that first part, building your career like a product, saying what it is, but then they say a PM's take. So I know that this talk is going to be this person's personal experiences and their personal secrets and from their experience. So there's a lot that can be gained and gathered from each of these different talk titles. And I have a really great idea about what each one is going to cover before I've even read the description or attended the talk. You could also write a creative talk title. Some people like to do fun play on words. You could do that. One from our last conference, fun with feature flags. There's a little bit of a cultural reference there with fun with flags. I thought that was so fun. A crash course and SSH, and they put the SSH here in the word crash. It was just really eye-catching. Steer your career, a little bit of rhyme is always fun. Digging ourselves out of code debt, the love-hate relationship with a bug. So these are some ideas that you could consider as you start to think about your talk title. You can also highlight like tips and tricks, do's and don'ts, mistakes and pitfalls to avoid. So some of the examples from our last conference, what they don't tell you about tech interviews, pitfalls to avoid when creating your portfolio site, do's and don'ts of professional networking, and mistakes to avoid as an AI practitioner in industry. So you could consider going this path as well. If you want, you could also just keep it incredibly simple. So, you don't need to spend a lot of time on it. You could just write a very simple talk title that just shares this is what the talk is about in a few words. And here are some examples that are very effective and give us a sense of what this talk is going to be about. Creative coding to inspire. That one was a lot of fun. Build your backend using Fast API. Blockchain DApp development using Python and Web3.py. What does recomposition mean to your app? Today's cryptography and the impact of quantum computing. So you can see that everyone took a slightly different approach here, but we have a really good understanding about what each one of these talks is going to be about before we even read the description or attend the talk. And so now that we're here, so let's write down any talk title ideas you have for the topic you selected. So I do recommend probably choosing one, writing down a number of ideas. I recommend writing several talk title ideas. I tend to just write everything that I can think of. And then at the end, I figure out which words are the most captivating. So you can write down a list of possible talk titles. You'll have a pool of ideas that you can wordsmith later. So, yeah, like I mentioned, I would just start writing down a number of different possibilities, and you don't need to select which one right now. I like to just write some stuff down. So the one that I am showing in my example is "You're amazing, courage to say yes to more opportunities." And for anyone who doesn't know, I actually gave this talk at a previous Connect. So I'm basically taking what I had written from that and using it as this example. So I'm seeing someone is sharing one of their ideas. in the chat, and this person is my career journey from professor to data analyst. So that is a very fascinating topic. We're going to be talking about your transition. It's very clear exactly what is going to happen in this talk. I'd be very interested in seeing going from academia to industry. That is really cool. Another person's idea, combating PTSD with machine learning. That could be a really fascinating project to or topic to share with the community. I would be very interested in that. I think we'd learn a lot from that. Okay, fantastic. All right. So feel free to share what your ideas are in the chat. If anyone would like to share mixing atomic design with stories, that sounds really interesting. Smart approach, a new methodology to project development. Yes. Fantastic. Using social media to land your first dev job. So a good career focus. Fantastic. Does anybody else want to share? Everything you learned about being a dev, you learned from being a teacher. Fantastic. Yes. All right. Cultivating grit, overcoming the inevitable challenges in your tech career. Yes. Overcoming challenges is always a really great talk. So fantastic. Thanks everyone so much for sharing. All right. So now that we have our talk title, we have notes about what we want to cover in our talk, we can write our talk description. So, and you can do this in the opposite order if that works for you too. If you feel more comfortable writing your description first and then trying to work on a title, you can do that as well. So your talk description is going to be the second thing a CFP reviewer will evaluate when considering whether to accept your talk. It is also the second thing that an attendee will evaluate when considering whether to attend your talk. So we're going to write a few sentences to describe what our session is about and why someone should attend. So some things to keep in mind as you work on this. What will attendees learn from this session? What do you want the key takeaways to be? Use exciting language to tell the community about your topic. Start with a strong sentence or question that captivates attendees and helps them understand what the session is going to be about. And I will be going through some examples in a moment. Keep it concise. It's best to write 4 to 7 sentences to describe your session. I know for a fact you can do this in about 5 sentences and include a lot of information in those 5 sentences. So it's better to keep it concise. If it's too long, it makes it difficult for the community to read and fully understand like your talk. So I definitely recommend just focusing on the key points, what is needed to be said to get your talk across. And again, we'll be sharing some examples. Also recommend that you submit your talk descriptions in paragraph format. Don't recommend using outlines. It's much better if it's in an engaging paragraph. Also take your time to work on this and edit. I am a big fan of editing. I will edit everything 40 times. So, you know, I definitely recommend just taking your time on that. And so let me see. Some other people shared some talk title ideas. Someone said, keep it simple. Storybook for reliable code. That sounds amazing. Build your first test automation framework with Cypress and Cucumber. Fantastic. So lots of really great ideas. So here are some different examples of previous talk descriptions that you can use to write yours. So this first one, the crash course in SSH. So I really like this one because it's very concise and to the point. So the very first sentence, though it is approaching its 30th anniversary, Secure Shell Protocol, SSH, remains a fundamental piece of technology for most people who code. So that first sentence really sets up the whole description and like, what is this talk going to be about? So I'm very interested. I want to continue reading it. So then they pose a question. After all, who hasn't generated an SSH key and added it to their GitHub account? So very relatable. The next part, in this talk, you will learn what SSH is and the basics of how it works. So in this sentence, I'm understanding, okay, this talk is going to tell me what SSH is. It's going to tell me the basics of how it works. Fantastic. So you'll go beyond key generation to cover some other common use cases. So I know that this is going to go in depth. It's going to talk about common use cases. It's going to give examples. Okay, I'm engaged. Like, I'm really interested. Along the way, you'll learn how to use an you'll learn how to use an SSH config file to make your day-to-day interactions with SSH quick and easy. So you can see that there's a very distinct goal that you will get from this experience. So you're going to learn how to use a config file. It's going to make your day-to-day interactions quick and easy. So really fantastic example from start to finish. The talk title, the talk description. I know exactly what's going to be in this talk. I think it's written in 5 sentences. Fantastic. So I'll share a couple more examples with you. Adopting ML research to make training AI for games fun. So, and it starts off with a good first sentence. In this talk, you will learn to build an applied ML service that allows game developers to train AI that can play and test their video games. So in that very first sentence, even if that's all you read, you have a pretty good idea of like what this talk is going to be about and what it's going to cover. And I'm not going to read the rest, but you can see that it just, you want to captivate everyone in that first sentence. And there's another way of doing that. And in this example, let's get fired up, getting started with Firebase Firestore, which was a talk by Navati, who's one of our current fellows here at Women Who Code. She started with a strong question to appeal to attendees. So in her question, wouldn't it be great to have a cloud database tool that's easy to use and helps you create real-time responsive apps? So this is like a really good way of hooking the reader. Okay, yes, I would love to have a cloud database tool that's easy to use and helps me create real-time responsive apps. Fantastic. I'm really interested and engaged. She also asks a follow-up question, and then she goes into, okay, here's what the tool is. It's Firebase Firestore. Here's how it can help you. And then it says the talk will dive into Firestore fundamentals and structuring your Firestore DB. In addition, you'll gain a quick overview of what Firebase offers and compare relational databases versus NoSQL databases. And so very clear, very concise, what exactly this talk is going to be about and how it's going to help our members understand a topic. So yes, wonderful, thorough description, fantastic job. All right, so we're going to do our exercise now. So referencing the notes you sketched out earlier, and I'm going to show you my example too while you're working on it. So referencing the notes you sketched out earlier in the workshop, that was when we wrote down just any of our notes. Now we want to write a few sentences that describe your talk, highlighting why someone should attend. You can give a thumbs up emoji in the chat when you've written down an initial draft of your description. If you feel comfortable sharing your 1 or 2 of your descriptions in the chat, you're welcome to do that too. I'm just going to take a quick pause. Okay. All right. So here is my example. Sorry about that. So here is my example. So I did a lightning talk format. I thought that was the best for my talk, which was "You're amazing, courage to say yes to more opportunities." And so here are my reference notes from earlier. So I wrote down empower attendees to say yes to more opportunities. We too often say no to opportunities we really want due to self-doubt, as one example. Recognize, I want the audience to recognize their inner amazingness so they can build courage and confidence to say yes to more opportunities. And so here's the description that I wrote. So I decided to use a question as a way of hooking the audience into attending my talk. So I started with, has anyone told you recently that you are amazing? This upbeat and positive talk is designed to help you recognize your inner amazingness so you can build the courage and confidence to start saying yes to more opportunities. We find a million excuses against trying for opportunities that we truly want. Sometimes we allow self-doubt to decide for us. Whether you are working up the courage to give a technical talk, apply for your dream job, or learn a new technology, you will learn simple ways to help you go for it. Now is the time to start saying yes. So you can see here, like this first statement, I wanted to empower attendees to say yes to more opportunities. So you can see here, start saying yes to more opportunities, trying for opportunities. You'll learn simple ways to go for it. Now is the time to say yes. So you can see that there's like clear, concise language in here. I also threw in that it's upbeat and positive. So you definitely add in those phrases that make this the talk to attend. So we too often say no to opportunities that we want due to self-doubt. And so I address that, like about finding excuses for opportunities, excuses against trying for opportunities, and that I mentioned the self-doubt. And then for the final part, recognize your inner amazingness. So I put that in the title, you're amazing. I put that in the first question. Has anyone told you recently that you're amazing? And then for the second part, build courage and confidence. So you can say, so you can build courage and confidence. And also in here, you'll notice that like I gave specific examples of different challenges that someone might be facing like in our community. So someone might be, nervous about giving a technical talk or applying for their dream job or learning a new technology that is, really big and will take a lot of their time. So like I've given very specific examples, and these are some of the examples that this talk is going to help you with. So while everyone's working on theirs, I'm just going to check the chat real quick. So someone's asking about whether topics and speakers can only cover technical topics. Can you do something related to project or project management or design? Yes, absolutely. So you can talk about project management, product management, anything design related in our community. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read, someone shared theirs. So let's read this. After being a math professor for 8 years, the speaker decided to leave the career of her dreams to pursue a new one, a career in data analytics. In this talk, you will learn how to overcome a fear of failure, what to do while pursuing a data career, and how to recognize your transferable skills to get the data career you desire. So this is a really great start. So I think it's great you started off with your background information, and that this is going to be a transition experience for you, that you went into data analytics, and you're going to talk about fear of failure, what to do pursuing a data career, how to recognize transferable skills. You might want to also just kind of end with some sentence, maybe a quick sentence, just encouraging, just saying like, okay, this talk is going to help you understand like how to transition. We can work on that a little bit more. And I don't know if there's anything that you're offering, if you can let us know in the chat. Okay. All right. So if anyone else would like to share. Oh, Anna, I was just asking if you had any other advice for Lauren in terms of her talk and writing her talk proposal. All right. So yeah, if you want to share one or two descriptions in the chat that we can look at, feel free to do that now. You can also just leave a thumbs up emoji, just letting us know that you've started to write yours, and then we'll move to the next step. And so Anna's offering some advice, so I'll share that with the community. She agrees that transferable skills and getting into data analytic roles will speak to a lot of people. Just spend some time playing around with the structure of your talk description and see what happens when you lead with that. So thank you very much, Anna, for that wonderful advice. And oh yes, follow up. All right, so follow up, once you have a basic idea of your talk description, spend time revising and editing your description until you're happy with it. You have until the 14th, November 14th to submit, so don't feel rushed like you have to finalize this today. I will review a talk proposal that I write like dozens of times before I feel ready to submit it. I like to edit things a lot, so I will edit over and over and over again until I feel like it sets the right tone, it's concise, and I know that I'm getting the point across. Take your time. Remember that your talk description should be in its final form at the time of submission. You don't want to submit your submission form with just like one sentence for your talk description. You want to make sure that you're submitting what you would like to appear like on the website if you're selected. And this gives the CFP reviewers the ability to fully understand your talk and hopefully select it. And no, your description doesn't need to be super extensive. Just like I would just follow the examples that I shared here, where, there were about 5 to 6 sentences, really simple. Just make sure that you're communicating what your talk is. And then once you have something, ask a friend or colleague to review your talk description and offer constructive feedback before you submit. For me, when I wrote my You're Amazing talk, I just asked my partner to come over and check it for me and just make sure that I didn't have any grammatical errors, that everything was clear and concise, that it displayed exciting language and all of that. And so, that was super helpful to me. And someone's sharing theirs as well, their talk description. So I'll just read that real quick. So change is inevitable and can be scary, but we as leaders and managers can help our teams and team members adjust to changes and new challenges. In this talk, I'll explain some helpful tactics I've learned throughout my experience. These include thoughtful communication, empathy, transparency, change, and expectation management, and more. So just one point that was in Eliza's presentation, but not in my presentation. You'll want to use a second person as much as possible. So in this, you say, that you'll explain some helpful topics. Instead, you might want to say like, you'll learn some helpful tactics, from your experience. So it's a really great start as well. So, all right. Submitting your proposal. There's still more coming. So submitting your proposal, again, here is the Typeform link for you. And then what happens next after you submit. So the CFP review committee intends to select the talks by the end of the year. So you should be on the lookout for an email from Women Who Code. What happens if you're selected? Yay, if you're selected, that's amazing. You'll join the Women Who Code speakers channel on Slack. You'll respond to emails, any emails that the team sends you for more information or anything that you need to do. So for example, there'll be a speaker practice session. So you'll want to make sure you prepare for your talk well in advance, and I'll provide more information on this in a moment. You'll want to make sure you attend your speaker practice session on Hopin, which is our conferencing platform. Sync with the event team before your session. Arrive to your session on time, 5 to 10 minutes. If it's a session, 30 minutes if it's a keynote. Share the event with your friends and professional network using social media kit and the speaker assets. What happens if you're not selected? We hope that you'll still attend the conference because it is still very helpful to have knowledgeable community members at the event for discussions and networking, growing your knowledge with the largest and most active community of technical women. It's very inspiring conference to help you excel in your technical career. There's network and job search opportunities. You can share your ideas and discussions with the community, make new connections with technologists around the world. And I have to say that, like, if you're not selected as a speaker, definitely try again, continue to work on your idea for the next conference or the next summit opportunity. I do know that there are some people in the community who submitted a talk to a conference and they weren't selected, but then later they were selected for either a later conference or a summit when they've had some time to work on their talk description. And sometimes there are just a lot of really great submissions and we can only select so many. So, don't be hurt by it or anything if you're not selected, because there are other opportunities. You can also potentially deliver your talk with one of our technical tracks or local networks as well. So information about preparing for your talk. Prepare your talk starting several weeks or even months in advance. And I do recommend this. I have a habit of waiting to the last minute on everything. And so you don't want to do that for a conference. You want to have everything all good to go. Give yourself a deadline of at least 2 weeks before the conference to have all of your slides completed, your coding resources done, any other materials that you need for your talk or workshop, that you have like everything ready to go. And then you'll just want to spend the last 2 weeks before your talk practicing it, refining your talk. I like to share mine and my talks like in front of my computer screen and that sort of thing. I'll give you some ideas in a few moments. So while you're practicing and refining your talk, here are some questions to keep in mind. Have you included all of the main points? Is the presentation clear and concise? Are there any gaps in the content that need to be resolved? Can the presentation be delivered within the talk format's timeline? Okay, fantastic. And so some advice for preparing your slides. I highly recommend either using Google Slides or you can use Canva templates because they work on our conferencing platform. Our team will provide some slide templates to accepted speakers that you will be welcome to use if that is easier for you. Also, preparing your code. So I recommend having all starter code or code examples that you're planning to share posted to a GitHub repository before the talk or workshop. And then either you or your moderator who will be there to support you can share that link in the chat during the session. That way attendees will have everything that they need right when you get started with your code example right there on GitHub. You put any starter code on like REPL or some other resources, Jupyter Notebook or anything that's public, but I find that GitHub repos tend to be fairly universal. So feel free to use the GitHub repo as your way of sharing your code. Also, review and test. I know this might sound like really obvious, but review and test all your code before the session to ensure everything works and your environment is fully set up and up to date. I have attended sessions, different sessions where people thought everything was set up and then they realized that a version was incorrect or something like that. And you want to make sure that like literally everything just flows nicely and during your talk, so you don't have to worry about any technical challenges. You can just focus on your content. All right, and I think this is my last slide on preparing for your talk. So practice in front of your computer. Record yourself using Zoom if you like to play it back, if that you find that helpful. I personally find that helpful. You can also rehearse with a friend. Especially if you're nervous or if you're a new conference speaker, definitely try at least one of these different methods to practice your talk. Get plenty of rest the evening before or the day before your session, so you're feeling very relaxed. One of my secret kind of tips and tricks is to drink plenty of water 2 hours before my session. I don't like to drink water too close, but if I drink it 2 hours before, I feel very well hydrated at the time of my talk. Double check your setup before your session. So make sure like your slides, your code, any other materials are open. Make sure all of your notifications are turned off, Slack, anything else that you have, calendars, anything else, make sure it's all turned off. And then make sure all applications and programs that you don't need at all during your session are completely closed. That way you don't risk accidentally having something ping or distract you during a session. So just have everything closed out. And kind of one of the final points is stay calm. This is very important. Stay calm. I usually have to tell myself this before I'm about to give a big talk. Stay calm. Everything's great. You'll be amazing. So know that the community is here to support you and cheer you on. So everyone is here for you. There'll be a team and a community behind the scenes to help support you. And everyone during the events, during the sessions at conferences is very encouraging and supportive. And we really have an amazing community here. So you have nothing to worry about. Everything will be great. And so the final point is you will be amazing. So I definitely want to encourage everyone to submit your talk proposals. Very, very excited. And yeah, so I just want to say, thank you for joining us. I will have a little bit more Q&A in a moment, but thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to reading your amazing talk proposals, and I'm so glad everyone could attend today. So let's see if there are any questions. Someone's offering advice, create a separate user on your laptop configured for presentations. Yes, that is a perfect idea. I agree with that for sure. Also a reminder, the deadline for your talk proposals is November 14th. Anna, could you share the link to the form again? Thank you. Someone's asking a question. So yes, there can be more than one speaker for a talk. We just ask that each speaker submit the form. So basically if there's two speakers, you'll both come up with your talk description, your talk title, but you'll both submit the form. That way you're sharing like your own speaker bios and everything. And you might want to, in the notes section, just mention like who the other speaker is, so we know that, okay, there's more than one speaker for this. Here's the other speaker. So when they come in, we know like, okay, this is a single talk, but it has multiple speakers. I hope that answers your question. I don't know, Anna, if there were any other questions that came in
Yes,
in the chat that I
Marielle has
didn't see.
one.
Sorry.
I see Marielle has one. If
Yeah,
it's a
I'm trying to
broad
think of
topic.
a response, but if you have a response, you're
Oh,
welcome.
I'm sorry, I unmuted. I got excited. I think a few things on this. I think Stephanie, you said something like think about a specific problem that you had connected to the topic. That's a good way to focus it. But then you can also, I would say, if it's like a very popular topic, I mentioned this before, definitely take a look at our YouTube channel that we've been posting a lot of. You know, there are topics that are popular every single year. So what can you do to push the topic further or have a different point of view on a popular topic if you notice that there's a lot of presentations on the same topic?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Anna. Awesome. How many proposals will you be accepting? I don't know if there's an exact number, but like we'll accept a certain number of talks that fit within the time frame of the conference, which I believe is, I don't know, about 9 hours or so. So we'll be accepting a lot of different talks, a variety of different talks. So definitely just go ahead and submit your proposal when it's ready. Don't worry about don't worry about that part. Just give it your best and put forward your best talk proposal, and I will hope that yours is accepted. So someone says, how many proposals can you submit? You can submit as many talk proposals as you would like. But yeah, I would just make sure that each one just covers, some unique topic. So there's not like extensive like overlap in all of them. So, one might one might be like a workshop, and another might be like a lightning talk, where you're talking an inspirational topic, for example. So I would just, if you're able to come up with more than one topic, or if you have like several different technical topics and you want to kind of get a sense for like what the community is excited about. There have been people who have submitted technical talks, they've submitted more than one. And we'll look at each one, and if we feel like our CFP review committee feels that one of those two talks is like super beneficial to the community, we hope that it's selected. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know if there are any other questions. I have just a few more minutes if anybody would like to ask your questions. I feel too that Dolly, if you're still on this meeting, you did a fantastic job with your talk description. It sounds very interesting, exciting, and yeah, this looks great. Yeah, I definitely recommend that you go ahead and submit that. Fantastic. Awesome. Are there any other questions that anyone has? So yeah, I definitely recommend going for it. It's like my talk says, you're amazing. Encourage to say yes to more opportunities. This is an opportunity. Definitely just take your time working on your talk proposal. Like we mentioned, you have about 2.5 weeks to work on it. Take your time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward personally to seeing all of your amazing talk proposals. So if there are no other questions, I think the question is, someone's asking whether their English needs to be perfect. So we're a diverse community. So you know, your English doesn't need to be perfect, and I would definitely just go for it. And you might find that if you feel more comfortable before delivering your talk, maybe just practicing like with a friend or colleague and just asking somebody like, hey, can I just talk through my entire talk with you? Can you just help me identify any areas that, you know, I can, you know, make this session easier to deliver, and, you know, that would be great. And again, we have a really great community here of people who would be happy to help you. So review your talk or review your slides or anything like that. So and I don't know how to answer that last question.
I just responded. I don't have a requirement, but it is a technical conference. So, speakers have some professional experience in what they're talking about. But it isn't like, oh, you must have 10 years. I would say we have speakers anywhere from like 1 year to 30 years.
Yeah, like I would consider like somebody's example, quantum computing. I would probably consider that to be more of like a mid, you probably need to already be at a mid-level understanding in order to, you know, to understand, you know, quantum computing and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, you want to be knowledgeable in your topic for sure. You want to be, you know, you want to be sharing your expertise, but we don't collect up like, oh, like, well, this speaker has been speaking for 10 years, you know, or in the industry for 10 years. So we don't do that. We're reviewing like, what is your talk title? What is your description? Are you going to be delivering a talk that's beneficial to the community and empowers the community? So yeah, just focus on those things and definitely just go for it and submit. And yeah, I think you'll be amazing. All right. So I don't have anything else. I'm not seeing any further questions. So I'm just going to say thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today. And very excited to read your talk proposals over the next couple weeks. And have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're located in the world. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. Bye.